tons of injuries this week changed our rest of season rankings drastically. Let's get into all the changes here. We'll start with running backs in the S tier here. Not a ton of changes here. Christian McCaffrey obviously still up there with Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, and then we've got Jahmyr Gibbs as well. Look, all four of these guys are absolutely crushing it so far. They are guys that win you weeks. Nathan and I, these are our top four consensus. We agree with it. In the A tier, we start with James Cook. James Cook, I think, is making a very, very strong case to be in the S tier at this point.
Yep.
And I am highly, highly considering it. Yep. But very high on James Cook rest of the season. Obviously, I think he's one of the premier assets you can own in fantasy football. And he continues to score all those touchdowns. Omarion Hampton jumps up in our rankings here. Nathan has him at 5. I have him at 8. And so he's being a little bit more aggressive than I am. But look, I have him on my team, and he just scored me 27 points and 24 points in 2 consecutive weeks. Omarion Hampton, even though the offensive line situation there is very bad, is getting legitimately elite usage for a running back, like 90% plus usage. And now you're starting to see him actually make plays because he's that good of a player. He is definitely in this A tier pretty firmly at this point for us. Saquon Barkley, on the other hand, is somebody that has actually flip-flopped for Nathan and I. I have him at 5. Nathan has him at 8 at this point. And Saquon continues in these games where the Eagles are not passing the ball. This is awesome because the Eagles aren't passing the ball, so the receivers aren't productive. But Saquon's running the ball, and he's also only getting about 17 points a game right now compared to what he's capable of, which we know is like 20, 25 points a game. And so, rough outing so far, in my opinion, for Saquon for the price he drafted him at. He's in the A tier for us with Javon Achane, who continues to produce even though the situation there is very bad. I mean, Ollie Gordon continues to get some carries, but Achane still with the receiving work there. He had 17 points in a bad game against the Jets where they actually were leading a lot. So he's going to continue to stay up in our rankings. Bucky Irving had another big game. We're going to monitor the injury status of Bucky Irving. He's getting MRIs, evidently. He had a pretty nasty ankle injury, but he has been very productive when on the field, and he's been outproducing Rachaad White by a ton. Josh Jacobs had a 30-point game. He looks fantastic. And then Ashton Genty is in our A tier still because he finally has a 3-touchdown game. The Raiders are going to get him more involved, and also he's going to break out a little bit as a rookie. And so our A tier right now has expanded. These rookies have established their spots in these tiers now. We've had Saquon move down into this tier, and so a little bit fluid here with this A tier, but it's looking like these guys are going to be very solid options the rest of the season.
Yeah, so B tier is going to start with Derrick Henry. He continues to move down our boards. Avery has him at 10. I have him at running back 13. Look, with Lamar being out for who knows how long with this hamstring injury, and the defense being as bad as it is for Baltimore, this honestly is not all Derrick Henry's fault. People will point to the fumbles and be like, oh, he's not as good as he used to be and he's going to suck. This is honestly like Baltimore has to keep up with their defense by passing the ball constantly and trying to score points quickly. And if you notice, Derrick Henry is not on the field on passing down sets. That's Justice Hill. And Hill has actually had a couple of garbage time touchdowns the last couple of weeks, which has resulted in him outproducing Henry. That's fool's gold, obviously. But Henry is going to have to be in the top of this B tier. I think his floor is a lot lower than the people in the A tier. Quinshon Judkins continues to move up our boards. I actually have Quinshon ranked over Derrick Henry. And Avery has him at 14. He's moving up incrementally week after week after week at this point. If he continues to drop 15 plus points every single week, then he will be in the A tier very soon. Kyron Williams just continues to get consistent volume. With his volume, that does raise his floor quite a bit. So when he doesn't score a touchdown, he's going to get you 10 points. When he does score a touchdown, he's going to get you 15 to 20 points. So that's really good with him. He just doesn't necessarily have the ceiling that anybody else has in the A tier because Puka Nacua is the wide receiver one. He is the fantasy asset number 1 in fantasy football this season. He's absolutely ridiculous. And then Adams taking a lot of red zone touchdowns as well. Then you've got Javonte Williams, who I think has established himself, locked himself into this B tier with just how productive Dallas has been the last couple of weeks. They'll need to continue that, and he'll continue to get his volume, as well as Travis Etienne, who has really been a big reason that the Jags are 3-1 at this point and have a better run offense than they've had in a long, long time. And I think that's big credit to Liam Cohen and his ability to get the best out of the guys that he has there. I mean, he's gotten the best out of Bashal Tutin as well as Etienne, and Etienne I think is going to be here as long as he's a running back 1 in bell cow there.
In the C tier, we're going to start with Kamara. He's moved down a tier for us after another week where he just kind of has mediocre performance and there's still not a ton of touchdowns in offense. That problem is going to probably maintain for the entire season. Cam Scadaboo is moving up. Nathan's got him at 17. I've got him at 20. I honestly could have him at 17 at that point too. I'm feeling as comfortable with Scadaboo as I am any of these guys.
You're in the same tier.
Yes, and so with Scat, I think Scat is being overlooked still by a lot of fantasy football. He's getting so much volume there.
The neighbor's injury actually helps him too, and Dart coming in I think helps with the rushing ability that he has.
So, Scadaboo is firmly here for us, and I think he's a buy right now. Breece Hall, 16 points, yay. Receiving upside, yay. Terrible situation, terrible offense. Chuba Hubbard has moved down here for us a little bit after he's just continued. Rico Dowdle's kind of continued to chip into that workload. We both have Chuba Hubbard at 20 and 21, Trey Benson at 21 and 22. And so these guys, again, kind of what they are right now are mid to low end running back 2s, and the guys in the D tier are going to be your low end running back 2s / early running back 3s.
Yeah, so Kenneth Walker, flip a coin every single week. Is it going to be him or Charbonnet, or are they both going to be like, and both score 12 points like they did last week? You flip a coin, you tell me. Jordan Mason came back down to earth after he had a really nice showing in week 3, has a 10-pointer with no touchdown, loses a fumble in that game. But as long as he is healthy here, as long as he's healthy and Aaron Jones is not, he's still going to be a must start every single week. Travion Henderson is in this tier because his workload continues to increase every single week. Jaylen Warren was a surprise inactive like 30 minutes before the game. They tried to get him through warmups, and he was not as good as they expected him to be or ready as they expected him to be. We expect him to be coming back here after he was super, super close to being in the game there. So I think he's going to be fine. And then David Montgomery, a running back 2 in his offense. He's very boom bust. Touchdown, going to have a great day. No touchdown, going to have a pretty disappointing day, kind of in the single digits. So that's a little unpredictable with him. It's going to be based off of game plan. When you play a team like Cleveland, he's going to have a really down game. That's just the reality. Jahmyr Gibbs always gets precedence, but he's still a solid flex option.
Pointing at Kenneth Walker here, we have him pretty far apart. I have him 6 spots ahead of. I would personally put Kenneth Walker in the tier with Scadaboo in them. I mean, he's running back 16 so far on the year, but I have him at 19. You have him at 25. So I'm just pointing that out. They're going to be mad about that, and I'm telling them it's your fault because I have him ranked in the low teens at least. Like, I think he's a low teens.
I don't understand why you can be mad about that when he is one of the most inconsistent running backs in the NFL.
He's had 18, and 12 points last year.
One of which was without Charbonnet, and then last week they split the backfield 12 and 12 apiece. Like, what's his upside when Charbonnet's on the field?
He had 19 attempts against Arizona.
Yeah, and Charbonnet had like 12 or 13.
I think Walker should still be a little bit higher than those guys because he is a better running back, but I just wanted to point that out because they're going to be angry and they're going to come with their pitchforks about that one. J.K. Dobbins at the beginning of the F tier. Look, J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey are both in this tier. Dobbins continues to be fine, mainly getting his, 11 points, 15 points, 14 points, 15 points. Didn't have a touchdown, so we had a little bit less points, but limited receiving usage here. And you saw R.J. Harvey get a little bit more involved this game, but part of it was because they were up on the Bengals, because the Bengals are the worst team I've ever watched in my life. So Harvey had 19 points. He still outsnapped him, but they split the backfield from snap percentage standpoint, 44 to 41%. R.J. Harvey had 14 attempts, but he had 5 targets as well. R.J. Harvey is slowly becoming the running back to own there, in my opinion, but I don't think you're going to see it every game. I don't think that switch is quite done yet. I don't think you're going to see it when they are, down. Although, when they're down, if they end up passing the ball a lot and R.J. Harvey's the passing back, then maybe it's Harvey. So these guys are going to be in the same tier for us. Tony Pollard sandwiched in there. Look, he plays 90% of snaps every week and gets you 10 points. It's the worst value in fantasy football, unfortunately, but it's better than 0 points. And so he's at least got the floor. He just has... His floor is 10 points and his ceiling is 11. Like, that's really what it is right now for Tony Pollard. DeAndre Swift, the Bears, Swifty actually ended up with a touchdown in this game. And so he ended up scoring 16 points this week. So his production has kind of gone up, but his snap percentages remain the same. He's getting consistent target volume. Like Pollard, he's a high floor guy with a little bit more ceiling, I would say. And so Swifty's a guy that, maybe that offense gets better and you feel better about it. Zach Charbonnet, the difference between him and Walker is Kenneth Walker, in my opinion, is doing more with less, whereas Charbonnet has been getting consistent attempts. And when Charbonnet doesn't get a touchdown, though, he's only had one game where he didn't have a touchdown this year. He had 1 point. And so, it's
actually funny. You and I have them ranked at the same spot, but we have Walker very far apart.
So Charbonnet for me, and the reason is Charbonnet is touchdown or bust for me. I don't think necessarily that Kenneth Walker is touchdown or bust, and that's why I have them ranked a decent spot apart. But yeah, we do have Charbonnet ranked the same. I think we can agree we don't want to start Charbonnet on a week-to-week basis.
No.
And then Woody Marks, we actually have 5 spots apart. You have him 5 spots higher than I am, which I'm fine being aggressive with the Woody Marks. It still looks like to me a 50-50 split there, even though Woody Marks is going to be productive. Look, Marks had a receiving touchdown and a rushing touchdown in his last game. That Texans offense isn't probably going to run through the running game and Woody Marks outside of when you play a game like Tennessee.
I think what you got to look at is it wasn't a 50-50 split through the first 3 weeks, and it's been going up every
he's incrementally gotten more and more work, and he was the more productive back there this last week. So he's definitely somebody that was the top waiver pickup this week, and I definitely understand if you want to be aggressive ranking him. It's just going to be a matter of how much they actually end up running the ball where he's going to have touchdown upside, and that's what scares me a little bit with Marks. But he's still a good option the rest of the season.
and H tier, we'll kind of fly through here and I'll highlight a couple of guys. JCM just does not have the upside that we were looking for. This is a 3-back committee. Aaron Jones hopefully will be back by week 8 after their bye week. And then you got guys, backups like Ramondre and Tootin, Kareem Hunt, who are all insurance plays. Rashad White could have a productive week this week if Bucky Irving is banged up. He obviously had that MRI. We'll learn more later in the week. But Tyron Tracy, Avery and I have the furthest apart in our rankings here. I have him at 45. Avery has him at 37. I guess I'm just betting on Tyron Tracy not really being that much of a factor once he comes back healthy, and I think Scadaboo is fully taking over that backfield. And then Gainwell, we had to show him his credit, his respect. We both have him at like 41, 42 here as a backup there, but Warren will be like the main guy, the focal point there, unless we see anything new once he's back healthy. And then Nick Chubb and Isaiah Pacheco at the end of this tier. And then the H tier, it's even worse. It's even uglier. All these guys are borderline waiver level. And the only guy that I think could get an increased amount of work is Ollie Gordon, with Tyreek Hill now being out of that offense with the injury if they want to run the ball quite a bit more.
All right, let's pivot over to our wide receiver rankings now. If you want our full up-to-date rest of season rankings and weekly rankings, plus if you want to plug your team into the My Teams tool for free, everything is free for you guys who are going on the site. Create an account with code DOMAIN. Use our code DOMAIN when you sign up to unlock all this free stuff. And you can go and use all these tools as you continue throughout your fantasy football season. You can check our rankings every week. You can check our updated rest of season rankings as soon as we have them out. And you can use that My Teams tool to kind of gauge where your team's at in your power rankings as well. And so check it out. Use code DOMAIN when you sign up. I got the link down in the comment. It's free. You don't have to pay anything. Just create an account and use our tools. All right. Puka in the S tier. And that's the story. There's nobody in fantasy football. There's nobody in football that's doing what Puka Nacua is doing right now. And if I had to guess, there's not going to be anybody that's going to come close to this season. Stafford just does this. This is just what Stafford does, and he zeroes in on a guy. Puka Nacua is elite of the elite. He is in his own tier.
Do you know how many points per game he's averaging right now?
Like probably 26.
27.3.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's very good. Amon-Ra St. Brown, what's his points per game average? Because he's in a tier of his own in the A tier. Because for us right now, he's the clear wide receiver 2. He has been absolutely cooking this year. Tons of touchdowns, and that's not going to hold. But he is still just getting the target volume that offense has looked. He is just crushing it this year.
Yeah, 23.5 points per game.
And so there's nobody close to that either. So he's in his own tier right now as well. I would take Amon-Ra over everybody in the B tier here. This B tier is large. Jackson Smith and Jigba will start it. It's going to be all these guys are pretty much equivalent for us.
Yep.
But do know, so Jackson Smith and Jigba, I mean, continued his strong play with a Thursday night game where he kind of salvaged his game, ended up with 13 points. He didn't really have much through the first, 3 or 4 quarters. His target volume has gone down, though. 13, 10, 6, and 5 targets. They're going to have to get him more on the 7, 8 targets a game for him to maintain like a top 5 fantasy football wide receiver type deal here. But we're monitoring that. Justin Jefferson had a good game. It's just going to depend on how long Carson Wentz plays for and if he can sustain that. CeeDee Lamb, how many more games are we thinking for CD? He's not on IR, right?
No, he's not on IR, so I would guess probably like 2 more games.
1 or 2 more games is what I would guess.
If they were confident for sure it was going to be 4 weeks, and they would have put him on IR.
So I'm thinking it's maybe 1 more game for CeeDee Lamb at this point. So we're going to be aggressive ranking him because when he comes back, I would probably put CeeDee Lamb. He's in this tier.
We're moving him up 1 spot every single week.
Drake London had a good game finally, a really good game. Got a lot of target volume, and so the problem is this is just a big tier of kind of the guys with the same upside that have been hit or miss at points. But Rome Odunze, he's been consistent, but again, he had a slower week this week and still had like 16 points. It's just a matter of with Odunze. I mean, the touchdown streak is just incredible. He's not scored a touchdown this year. And outside of 1 game, he's been scoring 15, 10, and 16 points. I think there are going to be some weeks where Rome Odunze has 10 points. And so in the weeks he doesn't score touchdowns, you need to be prepared for that, but you can't ignore that he is the number 1 option in that pretty humming offense at the moment. Nico Collins, he's been fine. He didn't have a great game this last week after having a 22-point performance in week 3, but I do still like the usage there, and I do think that more often than not, they're going to have to throw Nico Collins the ball a whole lot more than that they did against Tennessee. And then Jamar Chase. Moving down our rankings here a little bit, it's very unfortunate for Jamar, but the matchups have been tough as well. Minnesota was a tough matchup for him. Look, Pat Surtain is a very tough matchup for him. The fact of the matter is, though, Detroit's going to be not great. Green Bay's going to be tough. Pittsburgh's going to be not great. He's got Sauce in week 8. Just, it's kind of unfortunate at this point that it has to be this way with Jamar, but the Bengals are one of the worst teams I've ever watched. It's so bad. I literally can't stand it. They don't give Jamar the ball. Jamar's clearly frustrated. You saw it in the game. And he's unfortunately just been sliding down our rankings a little bit to start the C tier.
Yeah, C tier is going to start with Garrett Wilson. I actually have him ranked over Jamar Chase at this point because it's so bad in Cincinnati. It's just as ugly in New York, but he's actually scoring points right now. He's had 3 of his first 4 games. He's had 20-plus points. He looks really, really solid. A.J. Brown is very inconsistent at the moment, but the target volume is there. Just got to keep crossing our fingers and hoping that the production is going to consistently come. Otherwise, he's going to fall down our rankings. Avery has him at 15. I have him at 11. Whereas a big tier here in the C tier, I could easily put him at 15. Cortland Sutton is looking great. I mean, he's picking up right where he left off last season. He had like one slow game so far this month, but other than that, he's just been absolutely rolling with Bo Nix. And then Devontae Adams, he's kind of like touchdown. I don't want to say touchdown or bust, but like touchdown or lower floor than we've really ever seen him have in his career. And that's what happens when Puka Nacua is averaging 27 points per game and Kyron Williams is getting his own in that offense. Devontae Adams has really settled into his true wide receiver 2 role in that offense, and he has some really nice weeks. He's going to have some not as great weeks, but again, he's in the C tier. We really like him here. Emeka Egbuka, just a lot up in the air with like once Evans comes back healthy. Godwin getting 10 targets last week. He ended up getting the production last week because he was able to get that big play for the touchdown. But other than that, again, he's kind of salvaging his weeks with these big plays. Is that going to continue, or is that going to kind of regress back to like, hey, we're going to have some slower days? Tet McMillan, we're still going to have in this tier, give him his respect. He's still getting volume there. I think he's going to be fine. And Rashee Rice, get ready for him to move up incrementally every single week from here on out as well.
I have Rashee Rice ranked a little bit more aggressively at 11 than you do at 19, but it's 2 weeks, so I mean he's coming back.
Yep,
it's gonna be awesome when he does. D tier. We'll start with Zay. Look, Zay's going to be without Lamar at least next week, it looks like, which is pretty unfortunate for Zay Flowers owners, but very good for me if I'm facing Zay Flowers and Lamar Jackson this week. But 14 points against Kansas City. He was
Lamar's
fine.
Not expected to play, by the way.
Yeah, so he's not going to have. He's a wide receiver 16 throughout the year, or on the year. So like that's where we have him ranked. That's what he is right now. It's a little bit higher than what we've seen him be in past years. Marvin Harrison Jr. had a very bad half and a very good half. He's kind of a sell high candidate for us right now. It doesn't really fix the issues that Kyler and that offense have, even though he had a very good half. And he does look like he could potentially return on investment for you if you drafted him. George Pickens, I mean, he's had to move up for us quite a bit here. I'm at 18, Nathan Happ's at 20. He's not. Look, George Pickens is not going to do what he did last week every game. That's, I think, obvious, but he's the wide receiver 6 right now in fantasy football. 17, 17, and 33 points in the last couple weeks. Pickens is not, here's the thing. Like, Pickens is ranked here. Quentin Johnson is the wide receiver 4 in fantasy football, and we have him in this tier as well. And so, like, if you're going to say, oh, Pickens should be higher, then you should say QJ should be higher as well. Because these guys have essentially done the exact same thing throughout the season so far. And QJ's on a better offense.
Yeah.
So,
and one of them has CD coming back.
Exactly. And so, like, realistically, this is pretty aggressive for Pickens. In my opinion, like, you can make a better case for QJ than anybody in this tier. BTJ... what can you say, man?
He's moving down every week.
What can you say? Xavier Worthy moves up for us a little bit this week. He looks fine playing with that torn labrum. You do have Rashee Rice coming back, though.
Great. Yeah, he looked more than fine.
Yeah, I forgot that your torn labrum doesn't slow you down, and his speed is still
apparently
very good. And then Quentin Johnson. I have him ranked at 20 at this point. With QJ. I mean, when you're looking at his utilization score on Fantasy Life, I mean, his utilization is 6th among all wide receivers. It's Puka, Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra, JSN, Rome Odunze, and then QJ.
I mean, this is just get used to it. This is QJ now.
I think it is. And, as somebody who picked him up in the Flock League off of waivers for $21, I'm fairly pleased with what I'm seeing with Quentin Johnson at this point. And I think there's an argument for him to be even higher on this list. I think there are a lot of people that are really, really, really dragging their feet with QJ and ranking him too low at this point. I mean, if you watch the game and how he's being utilized,
there's literally like no excuse to rationalize keeping QJ outside of the top 24 rest of the season at this point. Like, no. F tier is going to be Chris Olave. He salvaged his day this week with a touchdown, but he didn't get the target volume that we were used to seeing the first 3 weeks when he didn't have touchdowns. So when's he going to get the touchdowns and the targets? I don't know, because this team sucks. Ricky Pearsall is banged up right now. I've heard a sprained PCL, which is not a good sign. That's just, I honestly think, is going to slow him down over the next few weeks. At least he's going to be hobbled. Jamison Williams is JMO. That's all I have to say about that. He's a low end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3. He'll have great games. He'll have bad games. Expect him to have a good week at some point in the future. Mike Evans, we'll see when he comes back healthy what his usage will look like now that Godwin is back, and then you have Egbuka. I honestly am worried. I'm a little bit worried about Mike Evans once he comes back healthy. I don't want to say he's going to be the odd man out because he has 1,000 yards every single year, but it might just cap everyone's ceiling in that offense. Jalen Waddle has been the biggest mover up our boards by far. Avery has him at 30. I have him at 26. We both have him in the same tier. Both have him as mid to high-end wide receiver 2. I honestly think this is a better thing for Devon Achane than it is for anyone else in that offense. That passing game has not been very good for a long time. And while Jalen Waddle's volume, I think, will go up, I don't know if he'll be super consistent or anything like that. So I'm going to be a little bit cautious with Jalen Waddle until I see it consistently over the next couple of weeks. Terry McLaurin isn't healthy right now. We'll see when he comes back healthy. And obviously you need to see him paired with Jaden Daniels for you to feel really good about him. And Devonta Smith and DK Metcalf back here. You got a wide receiver 2 in an offense that passes the ball at least 20 times, which is not great, and generally at most like 30 times. They're going to be in the lead most games, so they're going to run the crap out of the ball the second half most games. DK Metcalf finally had his coming out party in Ireland, in good old Dublin, and this is the DK that we know. This is very boom bust, very Jameson Williams-esque, but he's actually a wide receiver 1 in his offense. But again, this is an offense that isn't super pretty, so I think you're going to have some big plays from DK every once in a while, and if he doesn't get big plays, then he's going to have to salvage his day with a touchdown here or there.
Ladd McConkey starts us off in the G tier. Man, what a fall from grace for Ladd. I mean,
Rip.
it just didn't look good in a game where he should have dominated, and QJ looks good. It's just unfortunate, but until he does anything for a consistent stretch, this is where
I know you're not sad.
No, I'm not. I didn't draft any Ladd, and I picked up QJ, but legit, it looks like one of the toughest picks in fantasy football this year.
Neither of us drafted Ladd. I don't think any of us expected it to be this bad.
You know, we kind of got yelled at a couple weeks ago for not having Jacoby Myers ranked high enough in our ranking. So I moved him up because I'm like, you guys are right. Jacoby's the wide receiver 31 this year. He's had 9 and 7 points since we got yelled at for that. And so
yeah, that's why I haven't moved him up yet.
Realistically, I mean, I don't think there's a good argument to move Jacoby Myers up yet. He's solid. He's a solid floor guy. But so is Debo. So is Michael Pittman. T. Higgins has upside. And so all these guys are kind of the wide receiver 2s in their offense at this point. Obviously, Jacoby being the wide receiver 1 behind an elite tight end. But all these guys here, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Jordan Addison, Chris Godwin, T. Higgins, Michael. I mean, literally, this is all the wide receiver 2 range. Debo's going to get Jaden Daniels back, which will help. Michael Pittman had another touchdown this week. T. Higgins, it's just
gross.
Talented, but it's gross. Chris Godwin had a lot more usage than we thought he would, so he moves up into this tier. And honestly, we really like Chris Godwin rest of the season, especially if Mike Evans remains out. Jordan Addison, we're being careful with ranking, but we understand that people are a little bit higher on him. DJ Moore has kind of fallen continually down our rankings. He still continues to put up at less than 10 points per game. And then Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen continues to look like a solid flex option compared to where you drafted him at. And honestly, he's continued to get more target volume than Ladd. Ultimately, 8 points without a touchdown for Keenan Allen. So I think you're kind of seeing his floor there, but it's just a matter of him and Ladd, I think, flip-flopping between that wide receiver 2 role in LA. I mean, legitimately, you cannot look at me with a straight face and tell me that Quentin Johnson is not the wide receiver 1 there. You just can't do it. It's evident on film. It's evident in the analytics. It's evident in the fantasy production. So it's just a guessing game between Ladd and Keenan, who's going to be the wide receiver 2 rest of the season, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then I did add Khalil Shakir there at the back end of this tier. I think he belongs here. He's been outproducing a lot of guys that are in this tier right now. He's had 2 really solid weeks, outproducing Jacoby Myers, who you just mentioned people are giving us crap for. Shakir belongs in this tier with all these other guys. H tier is going to start with Jawan Jennings. He's been banged up. He's very boom bust. Jerry Jeudy is just in a terrible situation at this point. I think they're going to get Dylan Gabriel implemented in that offense pretty soon. We'll see if that can kind of provide a spark for the receiving assets in that offense. Keon Coleman, Matthew Golden, Josh Downs, a bunch of young guys basically that are they've had some good days and they just don't get consistent enough volume on a weekly basis for you to be super comfortable flexing them every week. Wan'Dale Robinson has been the biggest riser. He went from pretty much irrelevant outside of that big game against Dallas to now he's very relevant. We're both being very conservative. We have him ranked at 46. We're going to move him up, I think, incrementally week after week if his production volume increases like we think it could. I just want to see it first. This offense could honestly just be really bad. I don't think Wan'Dale Robinson is going to be the primary recipient of all of the vacated volume that Malik Neighbors has left in that offense with the ACL tear. I think it could just be ugly. It could just be really, really, really ugly there. Darnell Mooney went down with a hamstring injury, I think, in the second half of last week's game. Really screwed me. But going into a bye week, he's going to have time to heal up. Hopefully he can come back healthy. Travis Hunter, Diggs, Ridley Tillman, Shaheed, and Ellick, and then Cooper Kupp kind of backing up this I tier as well. We had to divide up the H and the I tier to separate them, but we don't really see much difference between any of these guys.
Now to our updated tight end rankings. In a tier of his own now, Trey McBride ends up being the tight end 1 on the year for the rest of the year for us so far. And in the A tier, I'll start with this. Brock Bowers is the tight end 9 on the year. He's been banged up. He's not really been that impressive. He definitely is not returning on the price you're getting him, but he has as much upside right now as Tyler Warren, who's outproduced him, Jake Ferguson, who's outproduced him, and everybody. Tucker Kraft, who has outproduced him. And then, outside of that, it's going to be lower. It's going to be a lot lower guys in the B tier. And so these 4 guys in the A tier are guys that if you have them, you have an advantage of the position, and starting in the B and C tier, you really don't have an advantage if you have these guys.
Yeah, I'm just going to say I don't know why Jake Ferguson wouldn't be in the S tier if we're going to have everybody here in the A tier with him. Like, he's outproducing everybody right now, and that volume is second to none among tight ends in the NFL.
I agree. You have him ranked at 7.
So,
I have him ranked higher than you do. I don't appreciate the choir.
He's much higher than that for sure.
Yeah.
So B tier is going to be very small. Sam Laporta and George Kittle, they just have higher upside than I think anybody else does in the C tier, and George Kittle will be in this A tier once he comes back healthy. Laporta will probably kind of stick with everybody else down here in the C tier, starting with Kelsey. Kelsey doesn't have the upside, the ceiling that he used to have, but he does get the target volume that you expect him to get every single week. Dallas Goedert has had a couple really productive weeks that have been touchdown production, so that's very volatile. Kyle Pitts, same thing with him, touchdown, bust sort of thing. Juwan Johnson came back to earth this week. Hawkinson he's serviceable, I'll give you that, but his volume is kind of in question once that passing volume goes down when McCarthy comes back healthy. Zach Ertz and Mark Andrews will be the tail end of this tier. Ertz has had a slow couple of weeks with Marcus Mariota. I'd expect his production to go back up once Daniels is in there, and then Mark Andrews, honestly, with Lamar being out, he might be a nice little security blanket for the backup quarterback there. I think it's Cooper Rush. So we'll see what happens there. But Mark Andrews is very unreliable on a weekly basis. But again, I do want to give him his credit and his flowers. He's had a couple of good weeks here.
And then the D tier you can see right here. I mean, these are all guys you're not starting. All right. Quarterbacks. S tier by himself is Josh Allen. I mean, Lamar's been hobbled and hurt, so he'll
be missing time too, at least a week.
But in this A tier, we're gonna have Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, and Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, a quarterback 4 right now in fantasy football. He's been absolutely killing it. The nice thing about the Chiefs is they don't have good running backs, and so they only pass the ball, and they're a good offense, so they score a lot of touchdowns. And so Patrick Mahomes has been over 23 points in 3 of his first 4 games so far. He had 1 game against the Giants where they got up big, and he didn't need to throw the ball. Again, this is looking like a guy that should belong in the A tier, so we're going to put him here with these other guys here. Obviously, Hurts continues to be productive. Daniels will be back this week, and then Lamar Jackson's going to miss 1 week after that. B tier.
Yeah, B tier starting with Baker. He's my guy in the Flock League. Really, really tough schedule to start the season, like one of the toughest, and he still salvaged his day. He's still a mid QB1 right now. Has like 17 plus points every single week. The volume there is awesome. Drake May, the rushing upside is really resulting in his floor being very high as well. Caleb Williams had the worst week of his season so far, but still I think had like 12 points or something like that. He's fine. Fields belongs in here because of his week-to-week upside. It depends on matchup, honestly, because he can have really bad weeks and really, really good weeks. He had a 27-pointer this week. He was one of the most productive QBs this week, and if he has a breakaway touchdown run or just continues to run the ball in an offense that looks like a 1920s offense, then I think he's going to be productive. Justin Herbert also belongs here with his passing volume. And then starting with the C tier, you got guys like Goff, Bo Nix, Purdy, who are all pocket passers that can have big weeks any given week with passing volume and touchdown passes. But because they don't have as much rushing upside as the guys in the B tier, they have a much lower floor. Kyler Murray should have rushing upside. He does, but like his passing volume and just passing capabilities are so inconsistent that it really lowers his ceiling. And then Daniel Jones, I think the same thing applies to Daniel Jones here. He had his worst game so far against the Rams, like a real defense, and he looked mortal again. He looked like the old Daniel Jones. So we'll see what happens there. He might be moving down further over the next couple of weeks. Dak Prescott's passing volume is insane. He belongs here. Jordan Love has actually been one of the most consistent QBs to date. He's kind of like Caleb Williams-esque, but again, you don't really know when that offense is going to be productive or not, if it's going to be Josh Jacobs. The receiving assets there are pretty weak. And then Jackson Dart, 19 points where like 80% of that legit came on the ground. I think both of us were pretty shocked at how much they wanted to utilize him as a rushing QB. Like, we knew that he was capable of being a mobile quarterback. I didn't know they were going to use him like freaking Jaden Daniels. But here we are. They're probably going to do that more now that Malik Neighbors is down. His production is going to come from his rushing upside more than his passing volume because there's no Malik Neighbors anymore.
So, again, you can see the rest of our quarterback rankings right there. This is, again, fluid, but now we're getting to the point where there are less and less like dramatic movements every week outside for injuries. But do us a huge favor. If you enjoy the video, drop a like. Make sure you subscribe to Play Fantasy Football as well. If you'd like to use our free tools and see our updated rest season rankings, I got the link down below. Take advantage, create an account with code domain, and get all of our free stuff. Appreciate you guys. We'll catch you here soon.